to keep this light on or not. I don't know if I want to keep the light on. I don't know how it feels. Welcome to the light room. I'm trying to decide on the light in this room, but you come on in. Welcome to the light room. Check in with your green hearts. I missed y'all. 2 weeks be seeming like forever. But y'all come on in because we here. Today is September 18th, right? We're still in September, so that means we're still talking about suicide prevention, right? And tonight we're going to do a youth and young adult edition. So if you have young people in your space, absolutely share this live with them. Go ahead and invite them into this space because the young lady here tonight, she's going to be here speaking from the perspective of young adults and youth. And so I want them to be able to add their input, share in, agree, whatever the case may be. So go ahead and share this on your Facebook page. Go ahead and share this live in your group text. Share it everywhere people are. Again, if you have youth and young adults, oh great, I got you. I see it. Go ahead and share this live so that we can have people in the room. It's Mental Health Mondays. Check in with your green heart. Welcome. Now, y'all stayed up for Dion the other night. I know y'all can be in here for this hour with us. So go ahead and share this live in your spaces. Go ahead and get in, check in with your green hearts. If this is your first time on a Mental Health Monday, welcome. I hope this is not your last time. We are now bi-weekly, every 2 weeks, every scheduled 2 Mondays. This is the last live for September, Suicide Prevention Month. And we're going to come from a youth and young adult perspective. So if you have youth and young adults in your space, go ahead and share this live. If they're college students, high school students, go ahead and share this live with them so they can be in this space. My guest is already here. But you know how we do. We don't want to bring them in an empty room. Hey, Cam. Go ahead, share the live. Welcome in. If this is your first time, welcome. I hope it's not your last. If this is not your first time, welcome back. And I appreciate everybody that continue to come back to these lives. It ain't easy work all the time to do the work that I do in this space, but it's worthy, it's necessary. I encounter conversations and real live people, right? Real live people who are experiencing mental health challenges and struggles, and they still don't know how to advocate for themselves. They still don't have the resources to advocate for their family members. So we'll continue to show up in this space, all right? So again, this is Mental Health Monday. Check in with your green heart. Go ahead and share this live on your social media pages. And I'm going to bring my guest in a second so we can get this conversation started and rolling. Remember to engage in the comment section if you have any questions, any comments, anything that she or I say that resonates with you or speaks to you, or anything that you can add something to. Use your heart reaction, use your like reaction, and then again, you can also comment in this space. All are welcome respectfully into this space. Mental Health Mondays. The goal and the purpose of Mental Health Monday is to educate, equip, and empower the Black and brown communities with the knowledge, the skills, the tools, where are my words, right? And the resources to advocate for their mental health. My glasses keep giving off this glare, and I don't like it. My phone is close enough for me to see the comments, if there are any. But go ahead and share this live and get us in this live so we can have this conversation tonight, right? I have a beautiful young lady that's going to come into the live. You know how I do. I tell you how I met the guest, then I allow the guests to introduce themselves however they see fit. So, it went away. Okay, Lanai, you went away. You'll have to come back and send the request back. Oh, amen. Okay. It said that you're not able to join because of technical issues. Now, okay, it says adding now. So again, check in with your green hearts. Welcome to Mental Health Monday. I am your host, Quita Dorsey, Coach Quita D. Hey, there she is. There
Hi.
she is. Again, my goal is to educate, empower, and equip the Black and Brown communities with the knowledge, the skills, the tools, and the resources to advocate for their mental health. And those resources, as we know, also come in the form of people, right? God uses the hands, the hearts, the mouth of people to help us support one another. And so tonight, on behalf of the youth and young adult, I have this beautiful young lady here from San Antonio, Texas, who's going to come in and we're going to have a conversation, right? I know sometimes the youth, the youth be getting a bad rep, and I don't like it. I don't like it. I've been dealing with youth all of my adult career, from church, teaching Bible study, 5 and 6 year olds, all the way up to the work that I do continuously professionally. So I've been dealing with children a long time, and I know people think they're teachable, they're unapproachable, and all the things, but I just think there's a different way to do it. And if you're not willing to transition to accept a different way, then yeah, you're gonna get the resistance. But they're not that bad. I love the children, and they love me. So, but come on into this live. Go ahead and check in with your green hearts. We are live for Mental Health Monday. The guest is here. We're going to go ahead and start the conversation. And you don't want to be left out of the conversation. So share this live on your Facebook page. Go ahead and share it with your friends. Go ahead and share it with your family members. Log in, and remember, if you have any questions, if you have any comments relating to our conversation, definitely use the comment section. We're here for all the conversations tonight. All right. So again, I tell you how I met the guests, and then I allow the guests to introduce themselves. All right. So I was eavesdropping, as I normally do, right? Because what other way am I going to find guests for Mental Health Monday in all these different spaces? And so I was a volunteer for NAMI San Antonio's Pathways to Hope Conference. And I'm going to talk about that too. For those that's in San Antonio, we really should be packing that place out. This is my second time. This is the 8th year. But we really should be packing that place out. The conference is free. Either way. So I was in the room where the speakers were, and then she came in. And then she was having a conversation about the topic that she discussed and how she was a panelist and all those things. So I was like, ooh, she was a panelist. Oh, she has the conversation. So I began to listen as she shared, some of the information that she talked about in her session, and just her thoughts about mental health and the resources and the thing that we face here, right here in San Antonio, or just as a whole. And I was like, I have my next guest. And so what did I do? I invited her. I invited her to be a guest on Mental Health Monday, and here she is. Okay, here she is, Lanai Johnson. So that's how I met her. And now I'm going to allow her to introduce herself, how she see fit.
Hi, I'm Lanai Johnson, and I'm a student at UIW right now studying in biology. But my biggest dream is to help advocate for those who can't advocate for themselves, especially for my communities, the Black and Brown community. And I really feel like mental health has slipped under, and we really don't focus on it enough. So I started by, talking to people around me, and I realized maybe I might need to get out there and really share and really advocate for people out there so that they really know from a youth's perspective how hard it is on our mental health of certain things and certain aspects. So yeah, I just want to give out there and help others.
So y'all know this conversation about to be good, right? It's about to be good. She already understands what advocacy is, and she already knows that there's a work to do. So this should be smooth like butter, and I'm looking forward to it. So with that, how did you end up becoming a panelist on for the Pathways to Hope conference?
So long story short, I had met Miss Donna Costa, which is one of the people working for NAMI, and she had seen me speak before. So she's watched me speak a couple of times. I've spoken at my church, and I had also done in another event for my church before this, speaking on mental health. And she really thought to herself, "Ooh, this is a person I want to get out there," because I was a part of one of her groups for children where she asked questions when I was in high school and I was just finishing up high school. She was asking questions to the youth to figure out how could parents better help their kids and be more equipped when talking to their kids and students about mental health. So I was on one of those talks, and we were talking, and she liked how I spoke, and she said, "I want you to be on one of my panels as soon as possible." And so I ended up getting a call, and she was like, "Would you be willing to get on my panel?" And I said, "Yes, why not? I would love to." And that's how I ended up at the panelist and being able to speak.
Wow. Wow. Well, I hate I missed your session. I last year I was a guest because it was my first time. And I had just moved to San Antonio. But this year I was like, well, let me volunteer because I'm making my way around NUMMI just to see what the program is about so that in turn I can begin to be a part of it. And so I volunteered this year versus being a guest for the conference. So it was really good meeting you. And now I know, right, you're in the right place at the right time. And so again, thank you for being willing to come into this space. So y'all know, hey, listen, I never meet a stranger. We don't know each other from a hole in the road except that first encounter we had. However, our hearts are in the same place. We both have a green heart, and that makes this conversation right, real, and relevant for us. And so, again, on behalf of the youth and young adults, if you have youth in your space tonight, even if they're not in the room with you, go ahead and share this live with them so that they can get this information, so that they know that their voices will be, can be, and should be heard. There are people advocating on their behalf. So go ahead and get them also a part of this conversation. Okay. And so with that, I just want to say, let me just read a few things about, youth and mental health. Um, what are the three causes of youth mental health issues? It says exposure to poverty, abuse, or violence can make adolescents vulnerable to mental health problems. And we know by age 14 is when a child can get their first diagnosis for a mental illness, by age 14. So to be exposed to poverty, and I'm from Mississippi originally, so small town, and there are small towns within Texas. So to anybody who lives in a small town, don't take it lightly that you live in a small town. Even big cities have small towns. So it's not all about where you come from. It's about where you lead, where you go, and what you do wherever you are. But being exposed to poverty, lack, not having enough food, not having enough money, not having stable households, all these things, can cause children, right? I know a lot of the parents will experience the stress of trying to find somewhere to stay, trying to find food to feed the kids, but the children also experience emotional distress when living in poverty, which can also lead to abuse. Parents are frustrated, guardians are frustrated. The children need things they can't provide it, and unfortunately, one of the quickest and most prevalent emotions that we express in our community is anger. You know, and a lot of times that's what children see. So that's how children grow up, and that's what they evolve into, which leads to the next one, violence. So with all these things going together, what has been your background with mental illness, not mental illness, mental health, as a young adult, either personally or in your community?
So for me, I think that a lot of my community, no matter what their status was, really, they were struggling. I used to go to school and, hear about someone, another one of my peers hurting themselves or killing themselves. And then we'd have a long assembly, and like adults would try to talk to us and speak to us and say, hey, it's going to be okay. Like, no, you have help out there. And like for me personally, I struggled with, like really being open. I was a type of kid that isolated themselves when I ever felt like any sense of emotion. So I dealt hard with mental health because I have severe anxiety. So I went through severe anxiety for a long time, and I still have severe anxiety. And so it took me a lot as a kid because I was just stressed all the time. I was tense all the time. And then that severe anxiety over time slowly developed into me having signs and symptoms of depression, and slowly working my way into going through depressive episodes. So I struggled a lot just as growing up, because when you're going through so many things, growing up is different because you're not this and you're not that. So you're slowly moving up the ladder, you're getting older, but you don't know where you fit in the world. You don't know what you contribute, how you do things. You don't know if you're a burden or not. And
Mm,
so you go through all these different emotions because you're living with your family, and your family says they're there, but they don't really know anything about mental health. At least like for my family, they're, a lot of our African American, my counterparts feel that, mental health isn't a real health issue. They
mhm,
believe that awareness is not necessary because that's no such thing. You're just sad. And so that's one of the stresses, is that like when I grew up, the people I grew up around, like my family, don't, a lot of them did not believe in mental health. So they couldn't help me. They would just say, "Oh, you're fine. You're just a little sad. You'll get better. Just go do something. You're fine. It's not that serious." And so, it, for me, mental health means so much more because I see how it affects other people in my life and how it affects me. You know, going to school and seeing someone die, but us continuing to go through a normal school day desensitizes us to what's happening around us, not making us realize that suicide is one of the highest things that is killing kids these days, because they no longer can deal with the emotions that they're having because they know have no good release. You know, so that's when you see that and all you look around is everybody desensitized to the violence of the world, it leads us nowhere. And so for me, mental health means so much. And I want to better it for those like me and younger and those older, just so that they know that they are heard, they are seen, they're not forgotten.
Wow. Wow. You said a lot in there, and jumping in on the desensitization or desensitizing, right, of human nature is really scary. And to hear it from, a youth perspective, a young adult perspective, because I mean, I'm a more seasoned adult, right? And so even in my spaces, in my groups, I hear adults saying, "Oh, like, yeah, that's a part of life. This happens." Even the adults are being desensitized. And so if we're desensitized and the youth are desensitized, like where does real relief come from? You know, where does the hope actually stand for, especially youth? Like you said, you don't know where you stand. You're growing up, your body's changing, your voice is changing, like so many things about you are changing. And not to mention the external factors, poverty, you know, the stress of growing up in whatever the household looks like, if there's lack, if there's abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse, mental, emotional, abuse. And so, um, as far as like peers or whatever, what are some conversations that you've been a part of with your friends or just people on campus that have also they have also shared their struggles with mental health? I don't know what's up with my tongue tonight, but it's tripping.
So for my group, I would usually say my friend groups, a lot of them, and my peers, some of my colleagues that I see class to class. Especially when I was in high school, we had a lack of trust in adults because we met along the times a lot of adults that were like, "You'll be fine, just shake it off." Or we would have adults that would take it to the next level where they're now taking us to a therapist, which when we only wanted someone to listen to us and hear us out and not be viewed through, a lens of a doctor and then probing us apart. Why do you feel this way? We didn't want questions. We just wanted someone to listen to us. So a lot of the times I see that is we're not heard. So when we are not heard, we go and carry around like, well, my opinions don't matter, my feelings don't matter. So why would I share with other people? Because they're just going to call me silly. They're going to tell me it doesn't matter. They're going to say, "Oh, well, that's just life. Everyone's sad, everyone's depressed." So a lot of the people in my group continuously felt like since they weren't heard, why even speak at all? Why share
Wow.
my opinion when I'm not heard?
And how has that really affected you personally to know that or feel like that?
For me, it makes me, it would make me cry. I sometimes used to cry myself to sleep because I felt like no one else in the world actually understood me or how I was wired and how I was thinking. Like I felt like every day was a cry for help, but no one was there to answer that cry for help. And like the only thing that kept pushing me was I may be a burden, but imagine if I died, I'd be even more of a bigger burden because now someone's got to pay for me to be buried, or, maybe someone might care if I die. So maybe I'll try to see how much longer. And not a lot of people can say
Yeah.
that. Not a lot of people can
Yeah.
really think to themselves and say, "Oh, if I die tomorrow, someone's going to care about me." But for me, I knew that there was people that were going to care for me, but I just knew that they couldn't hear me. It's like trying to scream, but it doesn't get out. You're stuck in a ball and you can't get it out. And so you're in there fighting your own battle, but no one really sees the battle you're fighting because on the outside you look good. Because when you see someone and you talk to someone, they always say, "Oh, how are you doing today?" And your first answer is always going to be fine because no matter what you say, deep down that person might not really even care. So all you're going to say is whatever you need to say to make them think that they've had a contributing conversation with you. Because really deep down, you're sad. You're hurting. You're thinking about all those things that you couldn't say because no one's going to understand. No one's going to listen or take the time to really think and understand how you feel.
That's frustrating, huh? That's
Yeah.
very frustrating. Wow. As a parent, I have an adult son as well, but you know, we don't always, when you become a parent, you don't know. You're growing as you're raising children. And what I would like to see, and what I've always tried to do, and what I still continue to try to do, is still be present for reasons as such. I have my own personal experience, which also made me more conscious when it came to my child, and it still does. Right, even though he's an adult, I'm still conscious and aware of things like what you're saying. So that he doesn't feel this way. Because I too know what it feels like to be screaming out loud, and it's like, why can't nobody hear me? You know, and you're conditioned to say, oh, I'm fine, I'm good, everything's good. And because, like you said, at the end of the day, you feel like everybody got their own problems. Nobody's going to care about, how I feel, what I'm going through, especially if you're a child, huh? Or a youth. And so how has that affected your ability to, you know, um, collaborate with friends or have friendships or relationships or build friendships and relationships?
So I struggled with like making certain friendships because for me I can do it. I can meet people and like be really friendly, but it's one thing to be super friendly, but it's another to keep friendships
Mm,
and keep them together. So a lot of the times I felt like I was so alone. So I used to, like I told you, I was isolating. I'm an isolator. So instead of me taking it out or acting reckless, I would isolate myself and I would make myself small so that maybe no one would notice me because I felt like why would I get into make create a friendship and only burden them with who I am in my existence? Because for me, I was always dealing with something or going through something, and that's one thing you never want to put on somebody, especially when you're starting a new friendship. Unless you've known that friend for a long time, there's a level you don't go to, and for a lot of the times, I was really down, and I felt like I could not make people happy. And then you catch yourself, like I know I always catch myself, like I always felt like I had to be the friend that was funny. I had to bring something to the table because if you don't bring anything to the table, who's going to be want to be your friend? And all I found out later that that was just a negative way of thinking. Me smiling even when I wasn't happy wasn't making me happy. Me laughing when nothing was funny wasn't really resonating with me. It wasn't making me feel anything. I just was slowly losing myself and I was trying to numb myself to the thinking, how can I be lonely with all these people? People always say you can't be lonely in a crowd full of people, but you really can't because you only feel like you're the only person there, that the only person that understands you is just you. You feel like you're the only person that exists that understands how your mind is thinking. And then your next thought is, how can I say that I'm struggling when you're probably going through a worse time, like you were saying?
mhm.
Everyone's carrying their own load. We don't know how much they're carrying because no one always wears it on their sleeve. So you never know how much that person, like you said, someone might have a terrible childhood. So they're going back to a bad home and dealing with violence while I'm over here, and I'm talking about my problems, but they have problems at home that they can't put on the table. So it's so hard to truly express yourself and make friends and deeper connections when all you think to that is when you see that person, I'm going to be a burden on them. I'm going to weigh them down and hold them back when they could really be doing so much better than me.
Wow. That's a lot. Man, that's a lot. But that's the truth. And the way you're expressing it now, as a young adult, this is what some of the adults have carried from childhood. And I was talking to my friend last night. They're saying that this generation is so rebellious, they're not able to be coached or parented, and things like that. And if you're honest, I told her, I said, this generation is the result of our emotional suppression. If we were able to say the things that we really felt, and we were able to, speak up for ourselves, this is probably what it would sound like and look like. And I said, what would need to happen for us, instead of suppressing our children like we were, make space. No child should have to feel the feelings that you just discussed. But we all know we've been the children that felt that way, and there are children that still feel that way. And I just think it takes just a minute, just a second, even if it's an hour, for us to just sit down and learn how to be present with one another. And so, with that, what are some of the coping skills or techniques that you've learned, or have there been any changes that you've learned to make this process a little easier for you so that you can be an advocate?
So for me, I just took the time to really sit down and think of the core. What was I really struggling with? What was I really angry about? Like
Mhm.
you were saying, rebellious. I didn't really have a rebellious bone in my body. I'm not gonna lie. So I didn't have a way, and I never was thinking, let me turn to alcohol or substance abuse, because I just wasn't wired that way. But for me, I would take it out on myself,
Mhm.
and I would blame myself for everything that went wrong. I was doubting myself. My self-esteem was low. So the ways I would cope is I would start by, I would have to start teaching myself, is this a rational thought? And is this rational? Is this coming from a place that is understandable? Does there have facts that back up this thought? Or is it a rational thought? Am I just saying things to say things?
Mhm.
And then I would talk to my dad. Like me and my dad, he is definitely probably one of the people that understand me the best. I told him I'm not doing well. I said, what I really need from you is someone that can be there, really hold me down, like help me, be my rock, help me and speak to me. I'm going through some things, and when I was in school, I would struggle here and there with subjects, and that would only amplify,
Mhm.
because all I would think about when I was doing work was my self worth. Because whether you walked in and you left the room with the A, or you left the room with a B, your self worth was different. When you're leaving with the A, you were feeling good. When you were leaving with the B, you were like, I could have done better. So self worth, I was struggling with. So I would talk to my dad and I'd be like, hey, like if we could just talk every day, see how each other's day is doing. Because for me, my schedule was busy because I'm doing school and I'm doing extracurriculars. Well, my dad's schedule was busy. He was doing this on top of that. He had work. He also had a bunch of things that he was doing back and back. So we set aside time to talk to one another and really talk about each other's day so that he can be heard too and I can be heard as well. So that we have this balance of him staying present and him being interested in us, me being present in his life as well, so that he feels like he's not just carrying it alone by himself, but we are mutually together, working together, because you are my father and I'm your daughter. So we're having this relationship where we can continuously open and talk about it, so that when I do have issues, I can be honest and open to you, not be afraid and fearful when I have to share my thoughts. And so creating that healthy relationship where you can talk to one another, and one another will not judge each other, but be there for each other and support. So I started with creating a stable, support system with me and my dad, and connecting that communication line, because he has always been my biggest supporter and advocate. So he's helped me to further grow my voice, because for a long time I didn't speak, and I wouldn't speak out and advocate even for myself. I wouldn't fight for myself. I would just, sit there and take it. And so my dad pushed me and helped me to speak, be vocal, because he's a very vocal person. So he would teach me how to speak and get out there. And then I started getting put in positions, like I would start speaking at church. I would start, doing Bible study. So slowly making my way up there to have the ability to speak to others. And I knew that mental health was something that was one of the biggest topics to me. So that was something that I went out there with the help of that healthy relationship, and realizing, hey, is this a rational thought? What do I need to work on? How can I better help myself? So a lot of times self-care also is very important.
Mhm.
Taking time for yourself, because if you don't take time for yourself, how can you help others?
That's right. That's correct. Look at
So yeah.
that. Good for you. And kudos to your father. That one was, yeah, that one made me a little sensitive because it sounded very familiar to my story. Yeah, my man, yeah, my father and I worked very diligently to build a relationship, and it's because of him, being present, establishing a space for me to pour out to him and him to pour out to me. I'm able to do what I'm doing now. Like he would always tell me, find your voice and keep doing what you do and just things like that. So that's good that you had your father and y'all were able to do that because as a daughter, it's vital. Fathers are so vital when it comes to identity of their children, and their son or daughter. Like when your father affirms you, when he's present, when he loves on you unconditionally, that's something different, and it builds a confidence in you. It builds a surety in you that can't nobody knock it down. Can't nobody knock it down as quick. And so when you do come upon these challenges in life, you're apt to be more resilient. So kudos to you for having your father as a resource and for even building that bridge for both of y'all. And it's like I just said, this is what it takes, right? You all are more vocal than we were. We weren't able to have this type of conversation with our parents. One, because our parents weren't in tune with their feelings, or they didn't have the space or felt like they had the space to be vocal about how they felt. And then, of course, some of us carried even the same thoughts that you carried. Well, I don't want to burden my mama. I don't want to burden my daddy. They already got enough going on. So I'm just going to shrink myself. I'm just going to not be seen. I'm going to go in my room and be quiet. I'm not going to ask for anything. But that's damaging, because if you do that from childhood to young adulthood, you go to college and get into real life, you're still shrinking yourself, because that's all you know. That's all you know.
Yeah.
So kudos again. So what are some of your goals or aspiration in the mental health space, as far as advocacy?
So honestly, I just want to help as many people as possible, get my name out there so that I can really start being on, podcasts and like actually getting out there so that I can go and be worldwide, actually help people so that they can be heard. I want to start getting into bigger groups that do this. So I'm joining the NAMI group at my campus. And so I'm trying to also get in contact with other people that I met at the panel when I was talking that wanted my information. And so I just want to keep getting my name out there so that I can help someone, a little girl like me who thought that she wasn't heard or seen, that thought she was just as small as a little tiny rock, but really I see you, seeing those people that need the help, actually addressing mental health, hopefully showing the older generations before me that mental health is so real. And you just show as much care because you do love your kids. I'm not going to take that away from y'all because I know y'all love y'all's kids. Y'all
Right.
just don't understand that how deep mental health is. And it's because you as a kid were deprived also of mental health, having the ability to say, oh, I don't feel good any of these times. And you had to carry that burden. So then you carry that ideology that mental health isn't real. So allowing for also the older generation to heal too with us and show why us as a generation are so rebellious is because we really are just, that's our outcry. That's our help. That's our cry for help, hoping that you will realize that this is us, this is who we are. And we want you to notice us because a lot of these generations, my generation now, we're growing up with a lot of more violence, a lot of more abuse. A lot of us are walking out of the house and not knowing our parents, neither of our parents, but only our grandparents raising us. Or a lot of us are coming out of the system and going to school and saying, well, no one cares about me anyways because they put me in the system. Because a lot of my friends that I had in middle school, most of them were either living with their grandparents or they were straight out of an orphanage and they were just going to school, and the county was just paying for them to go there so that, they wouldn't feel left or left behind in the system. So a lot of us are out here trying to, show that we exist, waving our flag, showing us that we exist. We may not show it in the best way sometimes, but that's the only way we know how to do it. Like a child throwing a tantrum. We just want to be seen. We just want someone to feel for us and understand us.
Wow. Wow. Parents, guardians, leaders, I hope you're listening. I couldn't have said it better. And I'm glad I didn't have to say it, coming from this generation, as we like to refer to. And again, I just believe in the good of people. I believe in human nature, but I also believe that, again, the children are our emotional result. The suppression that we had, the things that we could not say, like you said, you all are saying it loud. And what we'd have to do is sit down and listen to our inner child, you know, and let it speak to you all as children and come up with a plan. I love what you and your father did, building that bridge. And I love that you said that it wasn't just for you, it was for him as well. You know, um, a lot of children grow up selfishly because, again, the trauma responses is, I don't want my child to struggle like I had to struggle. I wasn't that parent. Number one, I was raising a young man. So you needed some level of struggle, like you needed some level of, challenge in your life so that when life come, you would know how to handle it. But the whole, I don't want my child to grow up the way I did, missing out on this, that, and the third. But the one thing that each of us needed, the parent and the child, is to be seen, is to be heard, is to share space, is to truly sit down and be present with one another. And nothing worse than somebody being in the room with you and then still show up as absent. That's a real slap in the face. And sometimes, unintentionally or intentionally, parents will do that. And sometimes children will do that, right? You're on your phone all day. Your parents, want to talk to you. They've been at work, you've been at school. They're trying to build rapport, but, children are texting, talking to their friends, don't have time for their parents. It's a work, right?
I
It is a
definitely
work.
agree. For me, I feel like for those kids that are on their phone and the parents are outreaching, parents don't give up, but also children do need to learn to listen. I feel like one of the biggest regrets is not having your parents. You're going to miss them when they're gone because those are the people that you wake up and you don't realize how much you depend on them. Some people really do take everyone around them for granted. And like you said, like people growing up with struggle, that struggle made them so that later
Mhm.
it wouldn't break them. So
Exactly.
certain times, like kids that get everything that they ask for with hands out don't realize and can only take for granted what they're given because they've never had to experience a struggle or a sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you experience a real sacrifice, you know what matters. And so I
Mm-hmm.
say that sometimes parents is going to take a minute for those kids that are in their phone because they're so far gone because all they have left is thinking that all that matters is what's on the screen. And what they don't realize is that's what also hurts with mental wellness as well, because of the way that the social media projects how a person should carry themselves, how they should act, because people will always take things as face value. A lot of kids were, as kids, I knew growing up, I was impressionable, so if you saw someone else doing it, you wanted to be cool too, so you would do it too, and that wasn't always the best mindset. So sometimes I do, if any kid or any youth is listening, be so grateful for your parents because you only have one. You only have your mother and your father. And if you don't have those, you have other people in your life that have made a difference. Hold those people closely because
Yeah.
when you lose them, you're going to know how much you missed out on. Because there is never a day where there's going to be a day that comes and you're going to wish that that person was just right there with you again, doing the little things that you didn't even think was important, the small things like cooking with them, the small things of them dancing around in the kitchen or them bothering you.
Yeah.
They may be bothersome now,
Yeah.
annoying now because they're doing annoying things to you, but those moments you're going to sit there and cry and think about because they showed you love in their own way the best they knew how. So do hold on to those moments. I know because for me sometimes I get caught up in the phone, and I don't even realize it because that's what the phone is for, to take your attention, distract you,
Mm-hmm.
put out false information, and then you just sit there and you replay it and you watch it, and you're not really thinking about all those people around you that care about you, that want to spend that time with you. So sometimes maybe just set some time aside, put your phone down, turn it off, turn it on do not disturb or whatever your phone does, and really set time aside to spend with your family because you will never get that time back. Because all you will be able to say at the end of the day, if you don't save that time, I should have, I could have, and I would have. You never want those to be your reasons of why you have regret. Remember the good moments and create those good moments because you can never recreate moments. You can only hold on to the moments you've already created.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm just trying to. I was not expecting. I was not expecting it. But you've spoken even to, as my therapist would say, little Quita. You've spoken a lot to little Quita about little Quita, and it's real and it's true. Building that relationship with my father allowed me to handle his transition as well as I think I'm handling it sometimes. It didn't start off the best for us, but we were intentional about it. And when he passed last year, I was sad, right? I was hurt because that was the end of it. But like you said, I have the memories. I have the memories. He didn't like social media as much, but every now and then he would get on there and share comments, and I'm glad because now I'm able to clip those comments and save them and read them again and just have some type of memorial of him and his words and his wisdom to me. Family is vital. We don't get to choose the family that we're born into. We get to learn whatever lessons this God has put inside of this mystery called family. We get to take those things and build us up for the better. And at the end of the day, when you get down to it, your family right there. Your family right there. And I recognize there are some outliers. There are some people who absolutely can't say that about family. When I moved to Memphis years ago, I had clients who were like, I don't fool with my family. I come from a big family. I couldn't imagine my life without my cousins or my aunties or my mama, my grandma. Like I couldn't imagine my life. And so to meet people who say, I don't talk to my family. It's just me and my kids. I'm like, where your cousins at? Like, where your aunties at? So I get it that there are some people who have those experiences, and I hate that for them. But for those of us who don't, especially to the young people, it's hard, y'all. It's hard for the parents. It's hard for the young person. But like she shared, there are things that we can do when we consider one another. And I want you to understand how powerful it was for you to say, this wasn't just for you. Your father also had a place. He also felt like he was supported. It wasn't just him pouring out, he was also receiving. And parents have to allow that space, and children, we have to learn how to create that in essence, or you end up with selfish children, or you end up with selfish parents. But we have to be very intentional to take care of one another, and you all have done that. And so kudos to you all for doing that. If there were, any final words that you would say, because again, September is Suicide Prevention Month, and you mentioned that sometimes you have lost classmates or schoolmates by suicide, and you had the assembly. What are some hidden things that parents may not know and that the children may need to know to help prevent suicide?
Honestly, for parents, I would say, please, please, like you were saying, be present in your child's life. Because when you're present, you'll pick up on the small things. You'll feel the vibes change. You'll feel the energy of the child change. So please, please pay attention. And children, remember you're not forgotten. You're not going unseen because there is someone out there looking for you. You just don't know how much you've made an impact on someone else's day just by being in it. You may not even think that that person is your friend, but that person might be on the sidelines, really truly taking time out of their day to think about you. You
Yeah.
know, your parents or your family or whoever is around you supporting you, they are going to miss you. They do love you. You are so uniquely you that there is no one that could ever replace you. The weight and the things that you can do on this world, you will never be a burden because you are built and made. You were created wonderfully to do something beautiful in this world. So don't ever lose your purpose or lose sight of your purpose. You might not see it now because you're going through puberty and struggling. I get that. Transitioning to going and becoming an older adult and, becoming and going out of youth is hard. But don't forget how much you are cared about and thought about and loved because for someone you matter so much. And even if you think there is no one that matters about you, you should matter to you
Yeah.
because you are that amazing. Don't let others tell you or determine who you are as a person because you are just that great. Think back and realize how many times a day you truly matter and you truly matter every second. Take those times to really reflect on your inner self. Yeah, today's been a terrible day. But if you cut your life short right now, you won't even see how many beautiful things you can possibly bring to this world and bring to other people because you've stopped it. You've
Mm-hmm.
stopped something that was meant to beautifully grow. Don't allow yourself to get lost in this idea that, oh, well, I'm not built like this because social media says if I look like this, then everything's going to work like this. And this
Mm-hmm.
person told me that if I don't act like this, then I'm not this. So do I even really matter? If someone says I'm different, being different is what makes us important. Because if
Mm-hmm.
everybody was the same, what would the world be? Would it be any
Boring.
fun? Exactly. Would it be any fun? Would there be any consideration of doing differently? Because there would be no amazing, cool geniuses. There wouldn't be people like Venus or Serena
Right.
Williams. There wouldn't be people that were set out to be trailblazers. You will trailblaze in your own world because you are meant to do something beautiful and powerful. And again, parents, just be there for your child and allow your child to be there for you because even you need healing.
Oof.
Therapy is not limited for when you think you're all right because you can say you're all right, but are you really all right? Be honest with yourself. Come to yourself and really say, am I okay? Because we have been taught over generations, like you were saying, to bury our feelings because our feelings don't matter. And if we say our feelings, we're going to be a burden on our parents because our parents are already going through so much. So realizing now you can put yourself first. Don't allow yourself ever to be second. Put yourself first and really get the healing so that you can help your child. You can help others around you truly seek that being happy because that's all we want is happiness. So
Mhm.
don't forget and keep fighting. You can't beat depression easily. I'm not saying one day you're going to wake up and be like, man, this is it. But you can make it
Yeah.
manageable. So make it manageable. Make life worth living for you.
Wow. Wow. That beautifully said, beautifully done. I'm full. I don't know. I'm hardly ever speechless, right? But this has been a very reflective episode for me. And I appreciate you, sweet love. I really do. I appreciate your heart. I appreciate your tenacity and what you're going to do in this world. Keep growing, keep shining. You have my contact information now. Any way that I can be of support and assistance to you, just reach out to me and let me know. But I appreciate your presence in this space, for sharing your story, your testimony, and for your encouraging words to the youth and to the parents. You know, anybody that has heard this, I, I know you feel all important and powerful and all the good things after that, because I do, right? I do. But thank you, Lanai, for again showing up in this space and speaking, giving voice to those who may feel voiceless in your generation. We are listening. We see you guys. We are here to support you, and we love you. All the things that you said, all the things that you said. All right, so I'm gonna let you. I'm gonna let you go to bed because I just I don't I yeah I don't even have I don't even yeah. You touched all the spots. You touched all the sensitive spots, girl. You touched all my sensitive spots. But I do appreciate your wisdom, and we need you in the community. We need your voice. So I'll see you at in the NAMI space
Thank you.
as we do the work together. All right.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor. You have a good night
You
too.
too. So it has taken everything on the inside of me to not just um this has made me very sensitive, right? Very sensitive. And I'm hardly ever lost for words in this space, but I really need to go in my room and cry. So that's what I'm gonna do. But before I do that, I'm going to end the live by saying to those of you who heard this young lady's voice, if you're a parent, if you're a guardian, if you're an auntie, uncle, cousin, if you're a leader and you have access to the youth, settle within your own self first so that you can show up and be present for these children. They just want to be seen. They want to be heard. They don't have the language. They don't know how to deal. But thankfully, they're not suppressing their emotions like we are. We just have to, be able to sit down with it. Listen. They want the same thing you wanted. Somebody to listen to them, somebody to see them. They want the same thing. The same thing. So yeah. I'm gonna what time? Golly, it ain't even 9 o'clock. I don't even this has made me very sensitive, okay? Um, it was almost like little me, right? Like who I was to become who I am was just on the other side of the screen, all the way down to, the relationship with her father and what they had to build for each other. Like that was me and my daddy. So I just, yeah. I don't have anything else that I can share in this moment, in this space, except share this live on your page. Go back and listen to her if you missed it, if you came in and out, if you didn't get it all. Go back and listen to the wisdom that this beautiful young lady shared. Share with your youth groups, share with your young adults, your teenagers, your children, period. They may be adults, but let them know that there's a safe space for them to open up and share how they feel. Begin to build bridges, begin to, build walkways from one side to the next in this relationship so we can be there for each other. Parents, be present. Children, be present. Be present. Put the phone down. Have family dinner again. Have family picnics. Watch movies. Do the things that's necessary to build up what we need on the inside of us so that when we go out into the world, we already know who we are, and we don't need social media. We don't need anybody else to tell us or our children who we are. We've already established that at home, right? Yeah, I can't. I'm sorry. I gotta go because all the emotions are here. So thank y'all for joining Mental Health Monday. I love y'all. I'll be back in October. We have two awesome, beautiful Black men that's going to speak in October. And then we'll close out in November for 2023. I appreciate y'all. Okay, I got to go. Good night.